the, I guess you could say it was kind of a bombshell development yesterday in the James Comey, Letitia James case that apparently now has been thrown out of court, and I think a lot of people are wondering why.
You know, this is a fascinating development. We were all not very surprised that President Trump went after two of his main political enemies, right? And James Comey and Letitia James. And, he had both of them in the crosshairs, and now you have a judge that threw out the case. But I'll tell you, the judge did Trump a favor.
Really?
Yes, because the case was thrown out on procedural grounds, saying that the U.S. attorney who was prosecuting the case wasn't appointed correctly. And because of that, the prosecution is illegitimate. What would have been worse, because the defense attorneys for both Letitia James and James Comey both filed motions to dismiss based on lack of evidence. And the judge didn't dismiss it because of lack of evidence. That would have been much, much worse for Trump. Now, this isn't over. The U.S. DOJ is going to obviously appeal this to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is one of the more liberal circuits if you're looking at that kind of stuff. And ultimately, it could end up in the Supreme Court on a procedural matter, though, not on the facts. But we haven't seen the end of this.
Okay. Who would you say is in more jeopardy? If you want to give us like the 20-second short version of the two cases, Letitia James and James Comey.
I think they both win. I think both cases against them, and I'm being just very honest and objective looking at the facts, are horrible cases for the government. And number one, in the James Comey case, you have a situation where he gave an ambiguous statement about Hillary Clinton's campaign, about something that actually helped Donald Trump out. And because he was ambiguous with his statement, perjury is just so difficult to prove. And I just don't think they have the facts. And with Letitia James, you have these mortgage terms that are also ambiguous. And I don't think that they're going to be able to show that she willfully committed mortgage fraud, only because the mortgage terms are so ambiguous and allows this kind of deception.
Interesting.
Okay, so then where, and we'll move on to Mark Kelly, I promise, in 60 seconds, but where does that case go from here?
Well, both cases are going to be appealed to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. They're going to say that the DOJ is going to say that the district court judge that dismissed the case was wrong, that the U.S. attorney was actually appointed correctly by Pam Bondi, the acting attorney general.
Is that a good argument?
Yeah, it's the only argument they have.
Okay. All right, good. Well, let's get on to the other case as well.
Yeah, Mark Kelly, your thoughts on this case and kind of what Pete Hegseth has said about, do we have the video to roll, Ron?
Yeah, matter of fact, everybody's seen it, right? You can refuse illegal orders. And then there were several other prominent Democrats that participated in it too, but now he's under investigation.
Yeah.
Now this is going to move, I think, into an era of military law.
Yep.
But what's your take on where things stand so far and whether he might be in some jeopardy?
Sure. And, the entire quote, though, was that there are threats both abroad and in the United States to the Constitution. So there was an implicit indication that he thinks that something is illegal that's going on in the United States. And according to the Uniform Military Code of Justice, which is he's under the jurisdiction, Mark Kelly, because he's a retired captain. So he has to still follow those rules. And their code that they say that he broke was that it violated the morale and discipline and chain of command in the Pentagon and the military when he spoke directly to the troops and implicitly saying that if you don't feel like the orders are legal, then you can disregard them. The problem with that is that, number one, he didn't state what he thought was illegal. So he's leaving that determination up to the troops. And number two, it's unprecedented that a former military member would speak directly to the troops out of the chain of command. I've looked up the precedent for this kind of stuff, and there's no other recorded action in the military where a former member did something quite like this. They talk about the military, which is fine. They argue about policy, committees, but nobody has ever gone through the chain of command and done something like Mark Kelly has here. So he is in a lot of trouble. And I wouldn't be surprised if he is court-martialed.
Well, because when you sign up to serve the country, then you are signing to serve the country, but then you're asking those individuals then to go against what they may have signed, right? And to support the country in all ways and protect them. And
yeah, in the military, it's so important that orders come from top to down.
Yes.
And if you insert any type of ambiguity that you don't have to follow orders that you don't feel are correct, it really affects the discipline of the military. And if you allowed all former military service people to do what Mark Kelly did here, there really wouldn't be a military because you wouldn't have any discipline whatsoever. Now, why did Mark Kelly do this? Well, we all know that he's running for president in 2028. And there's going to be at least 20 people on the Democratic side that are running. And everybody wants to have a talking point about how, they fought Donald Trump. So for me, when I'm looking at this objectively, I'm saying this is a political point that he wants to be able to bring up in 2028. But he may have bit off more than he can chew here.
Yeah, it's a campaign move.
But isn't there a First Amendment argument here? I mean, he is a sitting United States senator. You ought to be able to say whatever you want. I mean, how does that juxtapose with the responsibilities once you take that oath and it's with you, even if you're not active in the military? I mean, which side wins out there?
So the U.S. The Uniform Code of Military Conduct restricts certain First Amendment issues for former military personnel, including Mark Kelly. They're going to argue that despite the First Amendment, he is still prohibited from affecting the military discipline, morale, and code of justice. Now, the other people in the video, they're fine because they weren't part of the military. They're not retired military service people, so they're not going to be court-martialed. The other 5 Congress people who are in the video with Mark Kelly. But that's why only Mark Kelly is in trouble, because he is still considered part of the military. That means that it's not a First Amendment issue.
So when someone is court-martialed, what happens? I'm having this image of like A Few Good Men, like that in you know what I mean, the movie. Yeah. What happens, let's say they do court-martial him, what happens moving forward? So
he will have to be recalled to service, and he will have an attorney, and
Let me jump in right away. Are they able to do that? Can someone at the Pentagon do that like right away if they want to?
Absolutely. Yep. Now, the question is that it's unprecedented. I looked this up. There's only been one other time in U.S. history in 250 years where a sitting member of Congress was court-martialed. And it was during the Civil War. It was a congressperson from Ohio, and he was court-martialed because his loyalty was questioned, that he was supporting the Confederacy. And he was brought up in front of a military tribunal and prosecuted under military law. But that's the only other time in U.S. history.
Does the fact that they do not specifically mention what they want them to, not do, like when he says, you mentioned that they don't talk about the exact law they want them to break or what they don't want them to do. Does that help his case at all because they were not specific?
I think it hurts him because he's allowing the troops to make that determination. He's allowing the troops to fill in the blanks here. It would have been one thing if he said, don't commit war crimes, crimes against humanity, don't kill U.S. citizens. Then we know exactly what he's talking about. But here, he doesn't say that. In fact, he doesn't say anything.
No, he doesn't.
And Congressperson Crow was asked on Fox News, what they meant by that. And Martha McCallum asked Congressman Crow, are you talking about the Venezuela boats? Is that what you're talking about?
They don't know what he's talking about.
And they're like, no, we're not talking about that. We're just ambiguous. Is basically what Congressperson Crow said. So Congressman Crow confirmed that they're intentionally being ambiguous. And again, that creates the uncertainty for the troop discipline.
Oh, interesting.
What would a time frame look like if there were to be an actual court-martial trial?
The time frame would be rather quickly. And I think that if Senator Kelly is going to be court-martialed, it'll probably be in the next month or two.
Wow.
Okay.
before Christmas.
Definitely.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay. Things are moving fast in that
Yes.
case, Josh. All right. Really interesting. And what do you know?
We have a new name for you, by the way.
What's that?
You're our legal eagle.
I like that.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you, Josh.
All right, Josh.
Happy
Really
Thanksgiving,
interesting
buddy.
stuff.